Is it going tonight? This on this Friday evening. So what I'm going to be doing is a follow-up, a continuation of the previous video I made. It's actually technically part three. This is like a whole series. It's turned into a series. So this will be part three of the Vril video. So I did the Dark Vril, then I did the follow-up talking about the reset, conversations with the reptilian, part two. And then this will be, and I kind of finished off the last episode, the last live, by getting into some information about the Venusians visiting our government and predictions they've made about our future and information they've been sharing with our government. And it's a fascinating story. So if you haven't watched the last part, it's on my YouTube channel, Tyler Koala Unveiled. You could probably scroll back through here on Instagram too. The YouTube channel is Tyler Koala Unveiled, but the video was called "Are the White Hats Preventing a 1,000-Year Reset? Conversations with the Reptilian Part 2." So if you haven't caught that, I would recommend going back and listening to that, because this is going to piggyback off of that. It's a continuation. And this is something new I'm trying, and I think, I was just kind of guided to start going live and just, kind of riffing and sharing some stuff that was on my mind. But I'm really enjoying this format of taking chapters from books that I'm reading and playing the audio format, and then basically just pausing it throughout and breaking it down, kind of like a music reaction video, but I'm kind of reacting and chiming in on these books I'm reading, and in particular, I'm cherry picking chapters from books I like and that I deem that are important information. So that's what today is going to be. I'm going to be again covering more material from the Genesis for the Space Race book, which I could do many videos on this book alone, and I might, because there's some really amazing information in between these covers, some gems. A lot of stuff I don't see a lot of people talking about. It's kind of like a gold mine of information, whistleblower testimony, insider information. So, and after, I'm also going to segue into Stranger at the Pentagon, and I'm sure most of you are familiar with this story, Valiant Thor visiting our government, and basically the same thing, trying to help us achieve global peace, giving us information. And I'm just going to kind of show how this all dovetails together. So first I'm going to get into this book. And there's quite a bit to get through. So it's a very long book, very lengthy read. And there's so much in here. There's 18 minutes worth of audio that I'm going to play, that I'm going to be playing and pausing and discussing. So there's quite a bit here before I even get into the Stranger in the Pentagon material. So just bear with me. This is, in particular, if you don't know what we left off on in the last video, I was talking about basically, or this book was talking about how extraterrestrials have been here the whole time. And the government has a whole system set up where we have safe haven sanctuary cities for these reptilians, either on the surface or some reptilians, for these aliens, either on the surface or underground, but all over the planet. And they're living amongst us. They have been here the entire time. So this mainstream narrative of, are they real? Could they exist? These biologics, non-human intelligence. It's actually hilarious. It's a big slap in the face. Because they've been working alongside our government and our presidents for quite some time. And in particular, this man, Mr. Estes Plateu, in the last episode I did, I kind of introduced him, and he is an ambassador from Venus that is here to, share information with our government, and not just our government, but governments around the world, and basically assist us along, help us along, and to achieve global peace. But that plan has been largely unsuccessful up until this point. But there's fascinating stuff, and he was visiting President Franklin Roosevelt and a number of other presidents as well. But I'm just going to basically play the audiobook and let them explain it, but I'm going to read something before I get into that, just to kind of lead up to this. So this chapter in particular is talking about how different cities, we have different cities, sanctuary cities set up for these extraterrestrials, and a lot of them are just walking amongst us because they look so human we wouldn't know the difference. And it says 18 known aliens live in the Tampa Bay area of Florida, and perhaps double that number make the Los Angeles area their temporary home. In all, 3 interviews were conducted with registered Venusian aliens in Florida. And this book kind of gets into that, but there's a lot of Venusians that have been here for a while. The friendly invasion of these outer terrestrials is mainly from Venus, Pluto, and Mars. Some come from other planets of our entire solar system, and they have a purpose. Their objectives supposedly are to mingle into Earth's mainstream and report activities to their solar ambassadors so that the planet Earth may be guided away from the self-destruction course on which it presently is veering. If there is a more sinister reason, no one in authority has revealed it to the authors. So according to the author of this book, they are only here to help. And I'm going to start playing from this chapter now and let them tell the story so I don't have to sit here and read the entire time to you guys. I'm not super excited about the AI voice that is used for this chapter, but it gets the point across, so I'm going to go ahead and play that. And this is basically explaining how there's one Venusian ambassador in particular who has been working with our government. And this was before the time of Valiant Thor.
Alien coordinates and determines the direction of...
Let me rewind that a little bit. And then let me know, hopefully you guys should be able to hear this. Usually you can.
Alien coordinates and...
Why is that?
One alien coordinates and determines the direction of extraterrestrials on this planet. He is the chief representative to Earth for this solar system's governing body. He is in constant touch with all governments, and his presence is known by the United Nations. As head of the global network of information, he is in daily communications with the Interplanetary Police Net and the Solar Council on Venus.
So let me know if you can hear that. You should be able to. There hasn't been a problem yet. But just to recap really quickly, and then I'll let it play. So basically saying one alien coordinates all of this. There's like one main liaison that is relaying information back home.
The name of this warm, friendly non-human is Mr. Estes Plateu. He has been the confidant and friend of presidents, kings, and statesmen for centuries. But Mr. Plateau not only sat for an artist's drawing of himself, he is not photographable. He also agreed to be interviewed as would any well-known Earth celebrity. To begin, this elusive phantom from planet Venus, as he is referred to around Washington, says he was born in 1228, just a few years after the signing of England's Magna Carta. He began shaping the destiny of America as far back as George Washington's time and has been posted permanently in the American capital since 1943, from which he disappears for months at a time, probably to return to his home planet on furlough. Although his body resides in a particular office, on most occasions when he is seen, even by presidents, he is a three-dimensional projection of his true self. Mr. Plateau claims his home planet to be Venus, but he says Earth was the original habitat of his ancestors who fled just prior to a global catastrophe. Nevertheless, this interloping ambassador, who first arrived without credentials, stated he is the official representative of his planet, where 4 billion people live within and on the surface of the planet, united under one government.
So this is going to get into some really interesting stuff. First of all, he's saying that he was born in the 1200s and been here for quite some time. Apparently, they have very long lifespans. They're even going to get into what life is like on Venus here and how we just kind of have it wrong. The mainstream science, what NASA sells us, is completely wrong about the temperatures and the living conditions, the environment on Venus. So let's keep going.
People live within and on the surface of the planet, united under one government. Since the Earth's discovery of nuclear energy and its peacetime applications, as well as the negating of the gravity force by a universally understood form of electromagnetic energy, Mr. Plateau says that in the next 2 decades, Earth science and technology will be unbelievably advanced and in the service of human progress. But just as Earth is about to achieve its goal of a utopian civilization, it may be set back thousands of years again by another nuclear holocaust, the ambassador forecast.
So that's I actually covered that in the last episode. So just as we are about to reach this utopian civilization on the cusp of this great awakening, he's basically letting us know that there is a likely chance they could try to reset us thousands of years with some sort of a nuclear holocaust. And I think that is what we're preventing right now in the Middle East.
Mr. Plateau described Earth as a leading planet in science and learning as recently demonstrated, whereas there are many planets with more primitive civilizations. The question of how to prevent Earth from destroying itself is a favorite subject of the Venusian ambassador. As he sat in his office in a high building overlooking the Potomac, Mr. Plateau gazed out at the river for several moments and then turned around. His pale blue eyes changed from a trance-like expression to a piercing stare that somehow reflected no arrogance. An oval face with high forehead and long ears gave him a distinguished, philosophical appearance. His hair is still black and no wrinkles show on his face. Here was a being who had talked with all the deceased leaders responsible for involving their nations in World War II, as well as all the American presidents, including George Washington and Abraham Lincoln, but excluding Presidents Coolidge and Harding, who refused to hear him out.
So allegedly, he has been meeting with world leaders for years, including all the U.S. presidents, except for the two what did I just say? Harding?
But excluding Presidents Coolidge and Harding, who refused to hear him out.
Coolidge and Harding. So there was also an interesting encounter with Woodrow Wilson that I didn't put in here, but Woodrow Wilson did not like him showing up into his office, and he thought he was a ghost, and he actually had called a priest in to do an exorcism on the White House because he thought it was a ghost, but it was really just this Venusian.
Mr. Plateau was first appointed official ambassador to Earth by the present King of Venus on approval by that planet's parliament, but his accreditation has not yet been approved by the U.S. Congress. He officially arrived in 1943 during the last term of President Roosevelt, after a preliminary visit to the same president in 1936. The family of Plateus has long been trained and involved in Earth duties, Mr. Plateau's eldest brother having been advisor to Napoleon when he urged him not to fight the Battle of Waterloo.
So he is basically visited Franklin Delano Roosevelt in 1943, visited him prior in 1936. He even advised Napoleon. So this is, I guess, aiding in the fact that, into the theory that extraterrestrials have been working with people and world leaders like Tesla and others, Napoleon, all along.
Plateus has long been trained and involved in Earth duties, Mr. Plateau's eldest brother having been advisor to Napoleon when he urged him not to fight the Battle of Waterloo. Mr. Plateau reminisced that his father was on Earth at the time of Christ and knew him.
He said his father was on Earth at the time of Christ and knew him. So this is going to get really interesting because that ties in directly to some information from Stranger at the Pentagon, Valiant Thor, that doesn't get talked about enough, and I'm going to bring it up at the end. But there is a very... extraterrestrials also believe in God and Jesus, too. A lot of people want to say they're demons, but when you really get into this material, they also believe in God. So it's really interesting. Like, there are demons, and there are reptilians and archons and all that stuff, but not every ET is a demon. That's a very primitive mindset. Anything that is not me must be a demon, like that. We have to evolve out of that mindset. That's going to get us absolutely nowhere, and that's going to keep us trapped here.
Mr. Plateau reminisced that his father was on Earth at the time of Christ and knew him. This being who came from Venus claims that except for higher spiritual qualities among a segment of their people, Venusians are identical to white earthlings who wantonly destroyed their civilization 11,500 years ago in an atomic war bringing about the sinking of the lands in Atlantis and Athenia. Haman of the inner world's Agraharta also makes this claim.
Agartha is what that said. So I'm going to play that part back one more time.
Mr. Plateau reminisced that his father was on Earth at the time of Christ and knew him. This being who came from Venus claims that except for higher spiritual qualities among a segment of their people, Venusians are identical to white earthlings who wantonly destroyed their civilization 11,500 years ago in an atomic war, bringing about the sinking of the lands in Atlantis and Athenia.
So Venusians are very similar. They look exactly like white earthlings, and we wouldn't know them apart. Maybe they have pointier ears, slightly maybe bigger eyes, but they're talking about the destruction of Atlantis being done by the people here. We destroyed ourselves, essentially, although I think there's a lot more to that story.
Haman of the inner world's Agraharta also makes this claim.
By the way, this is not the best AI voice it's hard to follow this, so I appreciate you guys sticking with me and just hearing this out because it's good information.
Mr. Plateau says that planet Earth is the only one of 12, not 9 planets within this solar system not belonging to our solar federation of inhabited spheres. The ambassador recently advised the United States of another inhabited planet located in this solar system and unknown to Earth astronomers. Its name is Anarus. It is roughly the same size as Earth or Venus and was discovered according to directions given by the Venusian via electronic telescopic camera at the Washington, D.C. Observatory. The new addition is approximately 125 million miles from Earth.
So they're talking about there's 12 planets, not 9, in our immediate solar system. And then he just basically showed them a 13th planet, if I'm understanding this correctly. And they basically told our government exactly, they gave them coordinates of where it's at. And that's what they're explaining here.
The new addition is approximately 125 million miles from Earth. Earth is scheduled to become a full member of the Federation of Planets in this solar system when and if it is united under one world. Only then can the Earth representative sit on the councils of the Interplanetary Government, headquartered in Venus, capital planet in the solar system.
So they're going to be talking about this one world government quite a bit. And we got into this last time, and that's a very scary thought for the people who we've all been programmed with this new world order, one world government being a very bad thing. But it's not a bad thing if we're all united as one. It's a big difference, and that's easy to invert, and it's easy to misunderstand. But a peacefully united planet can now sit on the council and join the Confederation of Planets, and that's what they're going to get into here. But there's something in particular they're getting ready to say that really ties in currently with what we're dealing with right now, I think.
Million miles from Earth. Earth is scheduled to become a full member of the Federation of Planets in this solar system when and if it is united under one world. Only then can the Earth representative sit on the councils of the Interplanetary Government, headquartered in Venus, capital planet in the solar system. Venusians are not openly connected to every government on Earth, but Mr. Plateau considers himself to be the first representative from Venus to Earth who must answer to his king and parliament and to the supreme emperor of the Solar Federation as to what progress Earth is making towards a united world order. His reports to home base and his watchfulness on Earth happenings are critical at this time because of the nuclear precipice on which the nations of the world are poised. Venusian and other solar agents living incognito in those countries from which they continuously report keep track of the major nations' war aggravations and intentions, sending the information in code to Washington-based Plateau, who transmits the gathered intelligence constantly to Interplanetary Police Net and to the solar headquarters in Venus for action.
So they have Venusian plants, essentially, embedded in all over the world, in major governments all over the world, and they're relaying information back to DC to Mr. Plateau here, and then he relays that information back to Venus, allegedly, is what they're saying here. So there's a whole operation going on. They've been monitoring us and reporting back for quite some time, and this is just the Venusians.
Mr. Plateau declined to mention what action would be taken, if any, in case of a nuclear outbreak on Earth. The ambassador chose America as his past and present headquarters because he says America, consisting of a free assembly of diversified races, holds the greatest hope for leading this planet to overall lasting peace and prosperity.
So this is back post or pre-World War II. This is how long ago this was. And he chose to reside in America because he thought America was on the leading edge of bringing this planet into prosperity. So I think that could still be argued today and might be why there is so much action here in America and why we're the ones going into Iran and all these other places because there's a much larger effort here that involves extraterrestrials.
The ambassador chose America as his past and present headquarters because he says America, consisting of a free assembly of diversified races, holds the greatest hope for leading this planet to overall lasting peace and prosperity.
So Aaron just left a comment. So this book is from the book Genesis for the Space Race. I have it all in the video description. What this video is about. It's about a Venusian ambassador working with all the world's governments and delivering information back home to his planet and vice versa. And we are in the middle of this Venusian explaining why he chose to reside in America.
The ambassador chose America as his past and present headquarters because he says America, consisting of a free assembly of diversified races, holds the greatest hope for leading this planet to overall lasting peace and prosperity. Mr. Plateau's abiding fears are that Earth is lagging in universal brotherhood. According to Plateau, the global arms race is engineered through efforts of international forces loyal to no nation. These hidden power structures influence all governments and their military, including those of Soviet Russia and the USA. Earth's probes of Venus show outside temperatures over 900 USA.
So he's talking about hidden power structures that we all know about, the cabal, that are manipulating things behind the scenes, and this is what they're here dealing with, combating, right? They're trying to, essentially, they've been trying for years to get everyone to work together and bring global peace to the planet, but that just didn't happen, and I think because that didn't happen, we're seeing the result of that today. Now they're going to get into the conditions on Venus, what NASA tells us, and what they're really like, and this is actually really fascinating.
Earth's probes of Venus show outside temperatures over 900 degrees Fahrenheit under thick clouds of sulfuric acid that rains on the surface and pressures 100 times those of Earth.
So our probes tell us that it's 900 degrees Fahrenheit on the surface of Venus and we can't live there. And the pressure is too intense, nothing can survive. Allegedly, according to this, that is completely wrong, and we'll let them explain why.
Earth's probes of Venus show outside temperatures over 900 degrees Fahrenheit under thick clouds of sulfuric acid that rains on the surface and pressures 100 times those of Earth. Plateau suggested that the United Nations appoint a delegation to be taken to Venus to learn the facts. The departing Venusian craft carrying the delegation would leave from any spot so designated by the United Nations before a number of witnesses. Mr. Plateau said that several prominent Earthlings have already spent time on his planet, including a well-known Catholic churchman who was there as a guest of that government for 3 months.
So several world leaders and religious leaders have spent time on Venus. Basically, they told us, they schooled us, said, listen, your probes are wrong. It's not 900 degrees Fahrenheit. It's not raining acid. Come see for yourself. Come see the facts. So they arranged these trips to Venus. And in fact, this one religious leader spent 3 months there, according to this. And it goes in to explain the conditions on Venus a little more. And it really gets into some good stuff after that.
Venus is described as being geologically almost identical to Earth in atmospheric content, including the interior. Constant temperatures there are 60 to 70 degrees Fahrenheit.
So this is what, sorry if I keep pausing this, but I'm just helping you guys understand it because this AI voice might be hard to follow. Basically, this is them explaining now to us what the conditions really are like on Venus. Very similar to Earth, 60 to 70 degrees Fahrenheit.
Constant temperatures there are 60 to 70 degrees Fahrenheit. Even plant life is similar. Their trees are like Earth's pine, oak, cypress, mahogany, etc. All crops grow more quickly there because of a cleaner air environment. In Earth's three-dimensional world, the visitor said, it is difficult for spiritual qualities to develop in a modern Earth person, as all values seem to be related to that three-dimensional finite life in which Earth people have subdued spiritual values.
I apologize for this AI voice. It's really hard to follow. So basically, he's saying that the density of Earth makes it really difficult, almost impossible for people to spiritually advance here the way we should be.
Venus is described as being geologically almost identical to Earth in atmospheric content, including the interior. Constant temperatures there are 60 to 70 degrees Fahrenheit. Even plant life is similar. Their trees are like Earth's pine, oak, cypress, mahogany, etc. All crops grow more quickly there because of a cleaner air environment. In Earth's three-dimensional world, the visitor said, it is difficult for spiritual qualities to develop in a modern Earth person, as all values seem to be related to that three-dimensional finite life in which Earth people have subdued spiritual values. Earthlings must recognize that there is an eternal law of cause and effect that has a recognizable relationship to karma, or as said by Christ, you reap what you sow. This law is not only individual, it is family, national, and planetary. This truth also concerns one's thoughts. The alien explained, the difference between conscious behavioral norms and the subconscious spiritual nature of civilized Earthlings is made indistinguishable by modern education that is taught in schools and universities. Right and wrong actions of a person, regardless of what one is taught, are answerable to a higher power. A supreme God has made it so. On the first interview with Mr. Plate, he was asked bluntly how Venus expected to help Earth through his ambassadorship. He replied succinctly, number one priority is to prevent the use of nuclear missiles. Next, to have Earth nations develop into one world government where war is outlawed. Finally, it would follow that other planets in this solar system who are also watching the outcome would share their technology and science with Earth.
So that's fascinating. So what are they actually trying to accomplish by being here and helping us? And for one, get us to drop the nukes. I'll just replay that part.
It's made it so. On the first interview with Mr. Plate, he was asked bluntly how Venus expected to help Earth through his ambassadorship. He replied succinctly, number one priority is to prevent the use of nuclear missiles. Next, to have Earth nations develop into one world government where war is outlawed. Finally, it would follow that other planets in this solar system who are also watching the outcome would share their technology and science with Earth so that it could take its place among other inhabited planets.
So other planets are watching us too, waiting for us to get to this point so we can take our place amongst the stars and the other inhabited planets.
Some direct questions and answers follow concerning Plate's political, religious, and philosophical ideas.
Sometimes this AI says Plate instead of Plateau, but they're talking about the same guy.
Some direct questions and answers follow concerning Plate's political, religious, and philosophical ideas. Question. Mr. Plateau, secret White House records say that your permanent stay in America began on February 1st, 1943, or thereabouts, when you visited President Roosevelt. On that occasion, you laid out plans for a one-world government along the lines of the present United Nations. What exactly did you suggest to President Roosevelt as to how this planet could be governed peacefully by one ruler under the guidance of the Solar Council? Answer. When I spoke to President Roosevelt
So this is like a question and answer, like an interview with this guy. It's transcribed at this point. So they're asking him, okay, if you visited Roosevelt in 1943 and you approached him with this idea of this one world government, what did that look like? What did you tell him? And then this is him answering that question.
Solar Council? Answer. When I spoke to President Roosevelt that evening in 1943, he was reminded by me that I had visited him also in 1936 to enlist the friendship of America. I had indeed visited him in 1936 because we could see World War II approaching. I explained that our people had been visiting Earth for many centuries and had also met most of Roosevelt's predecessors in office. It was also explained that one represented the interplanetary government of this inhabited universe, of which Earth was the only non-member. Therefore, the purpose of my 1943 visit was to invite Earth into our solar confederation of planets, according to my explicit instructions from home. At first, it was incomprehensible for President Roosevelt to accept the fact I could materialize at will, and also that other planets in this solar system were inhabited generally only in their interiors.
So this is all fascinating stuff now. I'm tempted to go back and play this again just to emphasize what he's talking about. In fact, I am going to play this part because it's important to understand the conversations, if this is true, which I believe it is, conversations that were being had with our presidents dating back as far as the 1930s and 40s.
When I spoke to President Roosevelt that evening in 1943, he was reminded by me that I had visited him also in 1936 to enlist the friendship of America. I had indeed visited him in 1936 because we could see World War II approaching. I explained that our people had been visiting Earth for many centuries and had also met most of Roosevelt's predecessors in office. It was also explained that one represented the interplanetary government of this inhabited universe, of which Earth was the only non-member. Therefore, the purpose of my 1943 visit was to invite Earth into our solar confederation of planets, according to my explicit instructions from home. At first, it was incomprehensible for President Roosevelt to accept the fact I could materialize at will, and also that other planets in this solar system were inhabited generally only in their interiors. Earth and Venus being two of the exceptions, that is, surface dwellers as well as interior people. Following a discussion centered on Earth problems, your president was told that other planets in the universe had been monitoring Earth's emergence from primitive societies for centuries, but the possibility of nuclear war had changed outside surveillance to one of immediate concern that involved bringing planet Earth into the Interplanetary Federation.
So we've been monitored for centuries by many planets. We're the only planet that's not sitting on the council. They've been watching us evolve, and to the point where we started using the nuclear weapons and then they intervene, which we know this narrative, right? And the only way to really pull us out of that is like, listen, okay, there's life out here on other planets, mostly inhabited on the interior, excluding Earth and Venus. We have surface dwellers, but all these other planets are inhabited. There's intelligent life. They're monitoring Earth. You guys are going to blow yourselves up. This is what's really going on out here. So if you lay down your weapons, you could actually join us and you don't have to fight each other. Don't blow up your planet because that doesn't just affect you guys, it affects everybody.
I cautioned Mr. Roosevelt that ultimately we would desire total participation of all world governments under one chosen head if Earth was to take its place among the interplanetary governments to which I returned.
So, this is talking about one ruler of the planet Earth, right? One king, essentially. If you go back into this chapter, it talks about the king, Venus having a king as well.
I cautioned Mr. Roosevelt that ultimately we would desire total participation of all world governments under one chosen head if Earth was to take its place among the interplanetary governments to which I returned. Knowing quite well Mr. Roosevelt's ambition to head such a world government, emphasized to him that such a world leader would be acceptable only if all personal selfish ambitions for power were subdued. It was explained to Roosevelt that all the potential world leaders of major nations had been evaluated, and that he had been regarded as an emerging Caesar. I gave no good words for Stalin, and I stated that a cloud hung over Hitler and Germany for the present time.
So they have been monitoring people on Earth and seeing who would be a good fit to basically lead us into this one world government. And I guess Roosevelt at the time was a good candidate. And they looked at Stalin, they looked at Hitler, he saw a dark cloud over Hitler, so that's interesting.
The president was told that the other planets were aware that America led the world in prosperity and industrial output, and that its leadership and respect among all nations would remain undisputed for many years to come. Plateau continued. I could sense the future record of the post-war United Nations, and I reminded Roosevelt that the concept would fail unless the member countries of a united world order were to totally yield their individual sovereignties to the president of such an order. I stated that the other member planets had already placed each of their sovereign nations under one such ruler.
So he's explaining how all the other planets had to do this. Everyone just had to basically accept the fact that one person would be appointed ruler. It sounds very... I'll just let you decide what it sounds like, but it seems to be the way things work out there.
Then became the heart of the idea that it had already. I stated that the other member planets had already placed each of their sovereign nations under one such ruler. This then became the heart of the idea that I addressed to Roosevelt, one ruler of the entire world, with that ruler voting in proxy on all controversies of nationalism, law, religion, etc. Would such a utopia be feasible? That was the idea I left with President Roosevelt.
So he was meeting with Roosevelt, basically explained to him, this is what other planets do, this is what Earth needs to do if you want to participate in this, galactic council, the solar council, as he calls it. And it requires us to, set the selfish needs and the ego aside. And it requires a spiritual maturity that just wasn't on the planet yet and isn't on the planet yet. But I do believe Trump becoming king or whatever could possibly happen regarding that could be an effort to appoint somebody ruler of this planet so we can move into this. And it doesn't look good. Honestly, it doesn't look good. We've been lied to for so long. Nobody trusts anybody, and it doesn't sound like the greatest thing. But what if it is a way out, right? We have to consider everything. And I do think, like I said in the previous video, this would make the No Kings protest, the organized protest, the No Kings signs, and it was all organized. That was obviously paid for by the Soros Foundation, the Deep State Cabal, whatever you want to call them. That was a coordinated effort to stop us from uniting as one and appointing somebody as ruler or king. They don't want us to join this Confederation of Planets because that means that they lose any control that they had over us. But they're losing control anyway.
Before Mr. Plateau was asked the question of a one-world government, the authors had researched the White House records and verified the findings, locating various references on the dream of President Roosevelt to become leader of a new collective body of nations following World War II.
So there is historical documents where Roosevelt was documented on a number of occasions claiming, basically writing of a dream of a one world government, United Nations type of situation with one ruler. So that idea was given to him by this Venusian ambassador.
As the Venusian was about to leave the White House that evening in 1943, the president's actions are described as follows. President Roosevelt wheeled his chair to the door to allow the visitor to leave in a conventional way, but the stranger simply dematerialized while in the room. The President of the United States, never to be the same again, was once more alone. The record of that traumatic experience has remained virtually unknown by the general public. Finally, the president returned to his desk, not entirely certain of the reality of the experience of which he had just been part and the actuality of the conversation. He hurriedly made notes of the visitor's remarks, simply called their plan for the world.
So what they're explaining is the post-meeting effect. So this Roosevelt wheeled himself over to the door to let him out. Instead, he just dematerialized. Then he came back to his desk and contemplated what just happened, whether it was real or not. Then he immediately started taking notes to document what had just been shared with him. And the title for that document was Their Plan for the World.
He hurriedly made notes of the visitor's remarks, simply called Their Plan for the World. Attributed to the man who called himself a space emissary were the following notes that are paraphrased here but are in the same context that President Roosevelt recalled the conversation. The notes began, all the divergent politics, cultures, and religions of the earth would become one world. On that night of the 1943 presidential visit, Plateau had stayed approximately 1 hour and 45 minutes. In that brief span, he had appeared from an unknown dimension in space and time and had revealed a profound understanding of the inner drive and character of the Earthling, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, both as a human and also as a leader. The visitor had plumbed the deep reservoir of Roosevelt's psyche, which Roosevelt the man may never have fathomed himself. Looking out the window before returning to his desk to make notes, Roosevelt was glad the mystic ordeal was over and that everything in nature again seemed real as he knew it. However, to this 32nd president of the USA, the visitor would return again and again. In the ensuing
So that was the first of many visits, actually the second of many visits. The first one was in 1936, 1943, and then it gets into more visits after that. But it seemed Roosevelt was perplexed. Like, this guy just phases into his office, shares with him this incredible information, and then phases back out. And now he's left to wonder what just happened, right?
However, to this 32nd president of the USA, the visitor would return again and again. In the ensuing alien visits, President Roosevelt would remember one graphic statement of his intentions. Our numbers in your country will increase. Do not be alarmed. This is not an ominous threat. If we are received well, our future presence may be a blessing that the U.S. and the whole world can share.
Our numbers in your country will increase. This was in the 1940s. That tells me that we are probably living amongst a number of Venusians at this point. I'm going to play that back one more time.
Our numbers in your country will increase. Do not be alarmed. This is not an ominous threat. If we are received well, our future presence may be a blessing that the U.S. and the whole world can share. President Woodrow Wilson of the USA, who was tutored on the idea of a League of Nations by Plateau, is described by the Venusian as that world statesman who arrived ahead of his time. During their meeting, Plateau told President Wilson that it would take another war, World War I, for Earth people to realize that people...
That's supposed to be World War II. So basically, I'm going to play this back. This is actually a really important part, and one of the main reasons I wanted to make this video. So he's supposed to say World War II there.
World can share. President Woodrow Wilson of the USA, who was tutored on the idea of a League of Nations by Plateau, is described by the Venusian as that world statesman who arrived ahead of his time. During their meeting, Plateau told President Wilson that it would take another war, World War I, for Earth people to realize that peace should again be attempted on an international basis, but that a third world war would erupt before war itself would be outlawed and a united world order instituted.
So he was saying back before World War II that the World War II was imminent, and that even still it would take a third world war. A third world war would erupt before everyone finally realized, okay, war isn't the way, and then we need to move into global peace and prosperity. So that's what he's talking about here. But then when he's asked about whether that was a prophecy or just a prediction, his answer is very telling.
Plateau told President Wilson that it would take another war, World War I, for Earth people to realize that peace should again be attempted on an international basis, but that a third world war would erupt before war itself would be outlawed and a united world order instituted. When asked, Mr. Plateau refused to comment with precision on the certainty of another world war in this century or the time lapse thereafter, heralding the beginning of a peaceful planet united under one world government. Mr. Plateau was asked whether his remarks at this juncture were prophecy or assumption.
All right, here's the part I want you to pay attention to. They asked whether his remarks on World War III were prophecy or assumption.
Mr. Plateau was asked whether his remarks at this juncture were prophecy or assumption. He replied, I see the future over the horizon, but I can't change it. It is destined to be.
I see the future over the horizon, but I can't change it. It is destined to be. So maybe whatever conflict that we see happening right now is necessary for people to finally realize, after 3 major world wars, that this isn't the way, and this is the catalyst that helps push us into this new age, right?
He replied, I see the future over the horizon, but I can't change it. it is destined to be. The next war will be between the forces of good and evil, or God and anti-God.
That's what he's talking about right now. The next war will be over the forces of good and evil, or God and anti-God. That's precisely the war we're fighting right now.
Was asked whether his remarks at this juncture were prophecy or assumption. He replied, "I see the future over the horizon, but I can't change it. It is destined to be. The next war will be between the forces of good and evil, or God and anti-God. Good will triumph and lasting peace will come to this planet."
Good will triumph and lasting peace will come to this planet after this Third World War, or this conflict that we're in right now. So good will triumph. Basically, he saw the future, and he saw us in this final battle, this Armageddon of good versus evil, God versus anti-God, and good triumphs, and we move into global unity and peace following this conflict. So I think that's explaining the time where we're at right now.
When war is no more, the symbol of the ruling Christ will eventually replace hate in the hearts of men, and peace will reign forever.
When war is no more, the symbol of the ruling Christ will enter the hearts of men.
When war is no more, the symbol of the ruling Christ will eventually replace hate in the hearts of men, and peace will reign forever. Out of the ruins of the next war, the remnants of mankind will form the nucleus of a new world. Question. Mr. Plateau, may we ask you what part religion as presently practiced on Earth will play in this new age that has come upon us?
So, okay, he basically says once we get through this time, Christ will become known again, and Christ will enter the hearts of man, and we'll move into this global golden age. But now he's being asked about what role religions play in this.
Mr. Plateau, may we ask you what part religion as presently practiced on Earth will play in this new age that has come upon us? Earlier you said a global government would be ideal to stop nations from warring, and that we should use our human and natural resources for peaceful purposes. How could organized religion help in this utopian dream? Answer. I have not been involved directly in the religious visitations of our extraterrestrials to your church leaders. Such visits have been taking place since 1944.
So since 1944, extraterrestrials have been visiting the religious and church leaders, giving them the same message.
But I am well aware that church leaders have been visited by us on a regular basis with one message: peace. We have been preaching peace to Earth's leading clerics and believe that church and state should work more closely to that end. In an historical sense, according to Mr. Plate, he had observed the development of our world continuously and in greater depth than perhaps any other living being today. From the time of Christ, and particularly since the Middle Ages to the present, he knows of great events of political and religious importance that occurred on Earth. Perhaps this book will be the forerunner of ensuing revelations as to what influence interstellar beings have exerted on world leaders since human Earth time began, and it might also inspire others to come forward and shed further light on outer terrestrial purposes toward Earthlings. As the final interview with Mr. Plate ended, we asked if he would give a parting word to mankind. Yes, he replied. I could frame my remarks around one word. That word is listen. Listen, Earth nations. Unite peacefully before sudden nuclear war makes it too late to listen. The genius of this stranger of non-Earthling origin cannot be probed in this introductory chapter on his involved sojourn on this planet. When the government of America and sources within the United Nations are undivided as to the announcement of the ambassador's presence or that of his successor, complete information as to why the Venusians are monitoring the affairs of Earth may be made known. Then Earthlings may understand how the other orbital civilizations in our solar system are attempting to shape our destiny, here and perhaps in the hereafter, for good or evil. One alien coordinates and...
All right, so that was basically it. It's a fascinating story of a Venusian ambassador visiting President Roosevelt and many other presidents, basically preaching this narrative, this story, this way of a one world united government, right? One world peace, global unity. And that seems to be the only way. So we'll see what happens after this current conflict in Iran, but I do find it very interesting that he said after the Third World War between good and evil, God and anti-God, Christ will return into the hearts of man. So maybe a second coming isn't going to be in a physical sense, but it's going to be known. In fact, Trump announced on May 17th this year, it's going to be the official day where we go back into one nation under God. They have removed the Bible from our curriculum in schools, and they have gotten away from anything to do with Jesus or God in politics, and that was by design because the politicians leading up to Trump were all Satanists, and that's pretty obvious at this point. Not just them, but everyone that's been pulling the strings behind the scenes, this cabal, they have a different God, right? It's not the creator that we connect with. So we're going to be moving back into something like that. But I want to get into The Stranger at the Pentagon. This is important material as well. And this is basically the story of another Venusian, Valiant Thor, coming, but in a more open sense. So everyone in the government was aware of Valiant Thor's presence. This other guy, Dr. Estes Plateu, was more, they called him the Illusive Phantom. So he would phase in and out and talk to different world leaders, and certain people knew he was working with us. A lot of people didn't. So Valiant Thor, I think, had a more open presence. He was photographed. I mean, there's books written about it. And he was here to basically try to do what Dr. or Mr. Estes Plateu had been trying to do all along. And basically, they eventually said no to Valiant Thor. They said, sorry, it would require us to lay down our weapons and become a sitting duck, and it wouldn't be strategically, it wouldn't make sense in a war scenario for us to just lay down our weapons and expect that the rest of the world would do the same thing. So the concept in itself is great, but to get everybody on the same page was nearly impossible because no one wanted to lay their guns down, right? But I want to get into what's really important that no one talks about, and this is Valiant Thor explaining why he came to Earth on this mission. And he said that he was appointed by God. And I find that interesting, like I said earlier, because God is alien. This means aliens believe in God as well, and they believe in Jesus as well. And it's not, this disproves the fact that all aliens are demons. Actually, many of them are here to help us, and they're no different than us. If we show up on another planet and they were a more primitive civilization like we are, they might immediately think we're demons, but we know we're not demons, but they might think we're demons. We have to evolve past that. So it's a silly concept to just immediately say that all aliens are demons. We absolutely have to get out of that mindset. So this is, I'm just going to read a few parts from this book. This is talking about an experience that Valiant Thor had with what he considered to be God. He said he heard what he describes as a majestic voice saying to him, "Valiant, you have been created for a divine purpose. Your lips will speak words of wisdom, understanding, and knowledge to people on a faraway planet. Let your heart be filled with the expectation that very soon you will be sent to accomplish the most important task for which you have been prepared." So he was like on a mission from God when he came to this planet. And we just said, no, sorry, we'd rather not give up our weapons because we need to defend ourselves because those bastards in Russia, yada, yada, yada. And there's a little bit more here I'm going to skip past. But he talks about, well, I'll read the next part. Commander Val told me that he then felt the power of the Almighty God not only flooding his soul, but cloaking him with supernatural power that originated from the Father. Within days, he met face to face with Jesus Christ. This took place during a special time of worship and praise that raised the consciousness of the people to a much higher level than ever before. So they were preparing him for this journey to Earth. Within a brief time, the master announced a special ring of fire ceremony that was to be performed by Val and others before they would set foot on the planet Earth. The ring of fire would protect him and all the others permitted to serve with him. Their mission was under direct guidance of Lord Jesus Christ and remains so to this day. So it's interesting that they claim that they were here on a biblical mission from God, right? This is a mission from God, and they're under the direct guidance of the Lord Jesus Christ and remains so to this day. People from Venus that apparently look exactly like us. So, following the experience, Val accepted the appointment as commander and the assignment to travel to Earth to do all within his power to carry out the divine instructions and establish bases on Earth in order to implement the aims and purposes of his appointment. To this day, Val travels back and forth to Venus and is still in command of the Venusians who have been assigned to this planet. So this came obviously after the time of Mr. Estes Plateu, but I found it interesting. We all hear about Valiant Thor. Nobody hears about this other guy who had been trying to do this for decades before Valiant Thor came in a much more open way. And then I'm going to get into what this Ring of Fire prayer actually is, because I'll start reading from here. Special protection. Because of the impact of this incident on our lives, I was informed by Commander Val that the time was now for certain knowledge to be given to me to share with others. This information is the Ring of Fire prayer ceremony, which Val told me that he and his people perform before they ever set foot on this planet. And it's going to explain why it's very important that they say this prayer before they set foot on this planet, because they know the darkness here. They know what's going down here. Since the war in heaven, Lucifer and his band of angels, a full 1/3 of the heavenly host, were cast down into the planet Earth. Holy writings throughout the ages have testified that this planet has been held captive by him and that he is in fact the prince of the powers of the air. It is under his influence that the atmosphere which you now breathe has become polluted with health-threatening particles. Every evil that is committed on earth today can be traced to the influence of Lucifer and his crew. The level of crime, the disharmony, the disunity, man's inhumanity to man, all these under his evil influence. Because of this, those from other planets are instructed to perform a ceremony called the Ring of Fire. Although performed by a few in Bible days, the threats of the early church kept this information hidden from the people until very few now know of its power. So every planet, any extraterrestrial race, was instructed to perform this Ring of Fire ceremony before coming to Earth, because they understood the threat. They understood that this place was protected by Lucifer's army, essentially. And that, to me, tells you everything that you need to know about these extraterrestrials and why they're not demonic. We have a common enemy, right? And now I understand the reptilians, the archons, the greys, like a lot of them are demonic, and they have demonic souls, embodying them. So it's not all black and white. And then I'm going to end with sharing this ritual, sharing this Ring of Fire ceremony that you can perform, we all can perform to protect ourselves against this darkness. And I think it's really important. I've done this before. It's very powerful. It works. We just have to remind ourselves to do this. Despite all the saids and unsaids, I still hold with Jesus Christ. Yeah, exactly. And that's the whole purpose. That's the whole point I'm trying to make. So Mr. Estes Plateu said that his father knew Jesus personally, and they believe in Jesus. They're on a mission from God. Valiant Thor says the same thing. He's under direct guidance of Jesus to help this planet. Like, they have a vested interest in helping us along as well. Nobody wants to see the darkness take hold like it did, and right now we're seeing that all being uprooted and dismantled. So, now everyone pay attention. take note of the timestamp of this video, get a pen and paper. I am going to read you guys the Ring of Fire ceremony that every one of you guys can use every morning, every night, wherever you are. So, please follow these instructions carefully. Place a lighted white candle before you on a table or other flat surface. Be careful to place a dish or other object under the candle to catch any drips. 2. Under no circumstances should you permit anyone or anything to interrupt you while you are performing this ceremony. 3. Recite the Lord's Prayer. 4. Pray the following prayer without doubt in your heart. Believe that the God of creation is hearing you at the very moment that you are praying. Keep your eyes open as you pray. Lifting your outstretched hands heavenward, look into the flame and maintain your full senses. Know what you are doing at all times. Repeat aloud. Eternal Father, creator of the universe, hear this day my petition. Surround me now with your divine ring of fire, the fire of your protection, the fire of your abundance, the fire of complete healing, the fire of divine abundance. I now command the hand of the Almighty God on my behalf. Let it be so this very moment. In the blessed name of the Lord Jesus Christ. Amen. Now, as you look into the flame of the candle, place all your heartfelt desires as well as your problems into the flame. Extinguish the candle and watch the smoke rising as to the nostrils of God as he receives your prayers. Do not remove yourself from the room for at least 3 full minutes. As you stand before the extinguished candle, keep your eyes open and feel the presence of the ring of fire. You can perform this prayer ceremony anywhere, anytime, even while driving your car. You can pronounce the words and feel the protection of the ring of fire. You will never be the same again. So, that's amazing to me that this is a prayer that extraterrestrials say before they come to the planet to protect themselves against Lucifer's army. To me, that says everything about where we are at in this game right now, in this war, in this spiritual war. The fact that prayer works, even in space, on other planets. And they believe that they are on a mission from God under the direct guidance of Jesus is very, very interesting to me. It's something that doesn't get talked about ever when we talk about extraterrestrials. Snap. Can you repeat so I can record it? So what I'm going to do, guys, this replay will be available. And then as soon as it's done, I download it from Instagram and I upload it to my personal YouTube channel, Tyler Koala Unveiled. And you can watch the replay there. And I will put the Ring of Fire prayer in the video description. So anybody that wants to go over and just see it for themselves, they can. And copy and paste it, do whatever you want. Also, you can just buy this book, Stranger at the Pentagon, and it's in here. Absolutely fascinating read, underrated book in my opinion. So many people talk about Valiant Thor, but they don't talk about that aspect of what he was here to do. He was on a mission from God. In fact, so was this guy who claims his father literally knew Jesus. And I think that's all. I've been going for quite some time already, I believe. Thank you guys all for joining me. I hope I can save this video. Yes, the replay will be available. Like I said, it'll be available here on Instagram. I'll put it on my Facebook. I'll even put it on YouTube, on my personal YouTube channel, Tyler Koala Unveiled. I'll put it on the Journey to Truth Patreon. It will be available a number of places. I really hope you guys were able to stick with me through the AI part. That voice was very hard to follow. So I'm pretty sure I got the point across either way. It's a fascinating story about life on Venus and the Venusians helping us. Like I said in the last video, I think all the focus is on Mars because the real action is on Venus, but they want us to be focused on Mars and not looking at Venus. 900 degrees Fahrenheit. You can't survive there. There's acid rain. They create this hellish this hellish vision of Venus for us, so we have no interest in exploring or looking that direction. And I think that's like a sleight of hand. I think that's intentional. And I do believe that from what I am reading in these books, I do believe they genuinely have our best intention in mind. Maybe it's not the best thing for humanity. Maybe it was at one point. Maybe it's the only way out of this. I don't know. Use your discernment. Don't give your power away to the Venusians. We might not need a king. We might not need to be a one world government. But maybe that would help. Because if everyone is united, there's no one to war with because it's all one country, right? I mean, I'm sure there'll still be countries, but it's all one, under one nation, under God. And I suppose I will go ahead and wrap it up. If you guys are interested in joining our Tier 2 Patreon on Journey to Truth, we have a second tier. It's only $10. And on March 22nd, we are going to be doing our very first live Zoom Q&A. So if you want to hop on the Zoom call with us and just chat, have a conversation, tell some stories, ask some questions, and just hang out with us, you can do so. JourneyToTruth.online is our website. And if you're interested in coming to Hawaii, we have a conference coming up in April, a month away, April 20th through the 24th. There's a few tickets left. It might be last minute to buy a ticket, but you can join us virtually for only $55. All that information is on our website. And until next time, guys, I love you. Good night. Have a great evening.